They say the human heart breaks quietly, like a paper cut, invisible until the sting kicks in. Mine didn't. It cracked like a bone under pressure. Loud, messy, public. And it started with a Facebook post. Wineglass feeling cute. Might delete later, face blowing a kiss. Posted at 9:04 p.m. by my wife, Jenna. Jenna, who told me she was working late on month-end reports. Jenna, who claimed to be at a hotel conference for her department. And yet, there she was, smiling in a photo I never took, wine glass in hand, pressed far too close to a guy I'd only seen once, in the lobby of her building. My thumb hovered over the screen. I zoomed in. His hand was on her waist. Not an accidental brush, not a coworker, haha you're so funny moment. No, it was the grip of someone who had permission to touch her like that. That night, I didn't scream, didn't text her, didn't throw my phone across the room like they do in movies. I simply saved the photo. 3 hours later, Jenna walked through our front door like nothing had happened. Keys jingling, humming that same song she always hummed after a glass too many. Her heels clicked on the hardwood as she tossed her purse on the bench and looked up. "Oh hey babe," she said, pausing. "You're still up?" "Hard to sleep," I replied. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Everything okay?" I studied her face. Still flushed. Still beautiful. But not mine anymore. "I saw your post," I said calmly. There was a beat of silence. Her smile faltered. "What post?" I turned my phone toward her. She glanced. Blinked. And for a split second, I saw it. The fear. "Oh that," she said too quickly. "It was nothing. Just being silly." "Who's he?" She paused longer this time. "No one. Just a colleague. From accounting." "His hand was on your waist." She tried to laugh. "You're reading into it." "Jenna," I said, and this time my voice was low. "Delete the lies. Try again." She looked at me like I was a problem she hadn't solved yet. "I think we need to talk," she finally said, sitting down on the edge of the couch like someone about to negotiate a raise. "Yes, Jenna, we need to talk. But not tonight. Tonight, I wanted to feel everything and forget nothing that we didn't talk that night. Not the way she hoped." Jenna offered vague words like boundaries and emotional confusion. I offered silence and the kind of stare that makes liars sweat. She went to bed first. I stayed on the couch, crunching numbers in my head. Not emotions. Numbers. I'm an engineer. I trust formulas more than feelings. And I knew something didn't add up. Friday. Jenna said she was flying to Dallas for the quarterly conference. Flight 2847, 5:20 p.m. departure. She even showed me the ticket. But when I checked her credit card log online, a charge hit at 6:13 p.m. from a steakhouse in our city. Not Dallas. Not even close. Just 10 miles from our house. 2 entrees. A bottle of wine. The kind we used to order on anniversaries. I printed the receipt and slid it under her keyboard in the morning. She didn't mention it all day. Instead, she texted me a meme. Some cat in a suit with the caption, "When it's only Tuesday, but you're already done with people." She was right about one thing. I was done with people too. At least the ones who shared a mortgage with me and lied through their teeth. That weekend, I played detective. Quietly. Systematically. Like a man building his own case. I checked her old laptop. The one she forgot still auto-syncs her cloud. A folder popped up. Temp. Inside. Screenshots. Of flights that were never booked. Photos taken in hotel rooms that weren't hers. Voice notes with someone named C. A man who called her Sunshine. One file stood out. A selfie of the two of them. Her arms around him, his lips against her neck. Date stamped 4 weeks ago. Our 10th anniversary. She told me she was at a spa that weekend. She even brought back a robe with a logo. She must have stopped by the lobby for a souvenir after the cheating. By the time I closed the laptop, I wasn't shaking. I wasn't crying. I was calm. Because now, I had the math. She had lied. She had chosen someone else. And now I had proof. But I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. Not until I finished building the rest of the plan. See, that was all I had. A single letter in voice notes and the occasional vague mention. Never enough for a full name. But then I noticed something else in the synced files. A video thumbnail. It was short, 16 seconds. Jenna's voice giggling. The camera tilted like it was recording by accident. A man stepped into the frame. "Cameron," she said, laughing. "Stop it, Cameron." Now we were getting somewhere. He had that smug jawline you see in insurance commercials. Button-down shirt open at the collar. A Rolex that probably came with a story about closing the Boston deal. He looked exactly like the kind of man who sees your life as a networking opportunity. So I ran his face through a reverse image search. LinkedIn lit up like a Christmas tree. Cameron Ellis, Regional Director, Sales and Marketing, Westbridge Group. Of course, sales guy. I scrolled through his profile. Motivational quotes, a few selfies at conferences, and worst of all, one photo from a rooftop bar. With Jenna. They weren't touching. But her smile? That wasn't a just coworker's smile. It was the one she used to give me when we were first dating. The one that said, "You're the only person in this room." The comments were full of emojis and heart reactions. A colleague even wrote, "You two look amazing together." I didn't comment. I just saved the photo. Another piece of evidence. That night, Jenna came home late again. Something about quarterly numbers needing cleanup. She kicked off her shoes, kissed me on the cheek like she hadn't burned our marriage to the ground, and asked if I wanted Thai or sushi for dinner. Neither, I said, folding my arms. I already ate with an old friend. She gave a brief, flickering pause. "Anyone I know?" she asked too casually. I smiled. "Not yet. But you might soon." She tilted her head but didn't press. Maybe part of her knew. Maybe part of her felt the noose tightening. But I wasn't ready to pull yet. I had one last thing to find. Where they met. And when. Because this wasn't just about betrayal. It was about the architecture of a lie. Every betrayal has a blueprint. It's not chaos. It's not spontaneous combustion. It's construction, painstaking, and deliberate. I knew this because I'd spent a decade designing commercial office spaces. Every hallway, every emergency exit, every quiet corner where someone could whisper secrets they'd never repeat at home. I started retracing Jenna's story, not her words, but her actions. The work trips, the spa weekends, the girls' brunches that always came with hotel receipts and Uber logs that didn't lead to mimosas. She thought she was clever. That if she scrambled the timestamps, deleted the calls, wiped the text chains, I'd never notice. But she forgot who she married. And she underestimated how far I'd go once I started to see through the drywall of her narrative. It was Tuesday evening, and I was halfway through a lukewarm burrito when I finally cracked it. The origin point. An Outlook calendar invite. A company leadership retreat from 8 months ago. Westbridge Group sponsored it. Jenna was listed as a guest speaker. Cameron Ellis was one of the panel moderators. A 3-day event in Napa. I pulled up the location, a rustic resort with boutique cottages and fire pits. Team building with a twist, the brochure promised. Restore, connect, and inspire. I checked her social media from that weekend. Nothing. Not a single post. Not even a motivational quote. Which, for Jenna, was suspicious. She once posted an entire Instagram story about getting a free mini lotion from a hotel bathroom. This silence? This was curated absence. She came home from that trip glowing. It was amazing, she had said, tossing her suitcase on the bed. So relaxing. I needed it. And now I knew why. That was their origin story. I parked outside the same resort that Friday, purely out of instinct. I wasn't planning a confrontation. I just wanted to see it with my own eyes, the stage where my marriage took its final breath. The staff was friendly. The lobby smelled like lavender and firewood. As I walked past the front desk, I noticed a small framed photo behind the concierge. A collage from last year's retreat. And there they were, Jenna and Cameron, standing next to each other during a wine tasting. Not touching, not posing, but close enough that it didn't matter. The concierge caught me staring. "Beautiful couple, right?" she said, misreading everything. "They stayed in cottage 3, I think. That's the one with the private fireplace." I nodded slowly. "Do a lot of people come here for team building?" She chuckled. "Oh, you'd be surprised what people call team building these days." I left before I said something unkind. Back home, Jenna was on the couch, watching a documentary. She looked up when I came in, as if surprised I hadn't stayed late at the office again. "How was your day?" she asked. "Enlightening," I replied. She arched an eyebrow, but I could tell she wasn't going to push. That was her new strategy. Minimal engagement. Say less, reveal less. She'd gone from over-communicating everything from her lunch choices to her gym reps to suddenly treating conversations like court depositions. I sat down across from her. "You ever think about how things begin?" I asked. She paused the TV. "Begin how?" "Like, the first moment you cross a line," I said. "Do you remember the exact second? Or does it sneak up on you?" She stared at me. "What are you talking about?" "Napa," I said quietly. And there it was. The flicker in her eyes. Like a film reel snapping for just a frame. I don't know what you think you know. I know enough, I interrupted. Cottage 3. Private fireplace. You and Cameron. Wine tastings. Maybe a little team building of your own. She said nothing, which told me everything. I stood and walked to the window, staring out at the streetlights casting long shadows on the lawn. Do you love him? I asked, without turning around. Silence again. Then, I don't know. You don't know, I repeated flatly. After 8 months of lying, sneaking, deleting, I don't know, is what you've got? She stood now too, arms crossed. I didn't plan for any of this, okay? I didn't go to Napa looking to ruin our marriage. No, I said, turning to face her. You just wanted a getaway. Maybe a little attention. Maybe to feel something exciting. And then you kept going. You could have stopped. You could have told me. But you made a choice. Her eyes welled up, not with regret, with frustration, that she was being cornered. I felt invisible, she whispered. You were always working, always tired. Cameron, he saw me. And I trusted you, I said. So while I was busy building a life for us, you were busy dismantling it. She opened her mouth, closed it again. Are you leaving me? She asked. Not yet, I replied. But the foundation's already cracked. I'm just deciding whether to demolish it or light it on fire. I didn't leave her that night. It wasn't weakness. It wasn't indecision. It was strategy. You don't knock down a house until you know exactly what's buried in the walls. And Jenna had buried a lot. So I stayed. I kissed her forehead like I still believed in us. I climbed into bed beside her like I hadn't already started planning her exit. I slept soundly. She didn't. The next morning, I got up before her, poured coffee, fed the dog, read the paper like a sitcom husband who didn't know his wife had been warming someone else's sheets. She shuffled downstairs eventually, hair tied up, eyes heavy. You heading to the office? She asked, voice soft. Not today, I said. Working from home. That was true. What I didn't mention was what kind of work I was doing. At 10:42 a.m., I accessed our home router's admin panel. Jenna never changed the default password. Rookie mistake. Within seconds, I was inside, every connected device laid bare. Her phone, her laptop, her tablet, and, most importantly, her work phone. The one she thought I didn't know existed. I set it to mirror all incoming and outgoing traffic. Every message, every app push, every ping. Nothing would go unseen. By noon, I had the first hit. A text from Cameron. See, miss you already. Last night was, wow. Jay, you make me feel 20 again. Dangerous. Wanted. There it was. Adultery in digital ink. She wasn't just caught. She was cataloged. By 2 p.m., I had copies of photos. Screenshots of calendar invites. Some labeled MTG, others more creative deep dive, Q2 debrief, strategic review, corporate speak for betrayal. But I wasn't angry anymore. I was cold. Anger is messy. It clouds judgment. What I needed now was focus. Around 4 p.m., I made the first call. Brian, it's Logan. I need to retain you. Brian Dorsey was a divorce attorney. One of the best. Not a billboard guy. Not a late-night ed guy. A guy whose name never made headlines, but always showed up in courtroom whispers. I told him everything. He asked for evidence. I said, I'll drop off a flash drive in an hour. By the time Jenna came home, dinner was on the table. Wow, she said, half smiling. You're cooking. Just felt like it, I said, sipping wine. We talked about work, the weather, politics. She lied with her eyes the whole time. But she didn't know I had already heard her 3 p.m. call with Cameron. Thursday's hotel is already booked, she'd whispered. Corner suite again. Bring the same cologne. I can't get that scent out of my head. So I smiled. I nodded. I kissed her goodnight. And at 11:47 p.m., I made my second move. I logged into our joint bank account. Jenna had a pattern. Every Friday, she moved $200 into a separate savings account. She thought I hadn't noticed. So I followed her trail. Found the account. Transferred every penny back. Then I froze her access. Her card would still work for now. But the moment I flipped the switch, she'd be locked out. No warning. Just a decline at checkout when she least expected it. A symbolic reversal. She had denied me the truth. I would deny her convenience. By Wednesday, I had the full picture. Photos, dates, phone logs, hotel reservations, expense reports she never declared. Even an email from Cameron sent to her personal account titled, Our Escape Plan. If he finds out, it said, we'll be fine. He's not the type to explode. That line stuck with me. Because he was right. I wouldn't explode. I'd erase. That night, I handed Jenna her favorite wine. Let's talk, I said. She paused. Tense. Okay. I handed her a manila envelope. She opened it slowly. Inside were printed copies of her messages with Cameron. Receipts. Calendar events. Hotel confirmations. All neatly tabbed. Numbered. Highlighted. She looked up, color draining. Logan. I know everything, I said. No more lies. No more cute little work phrases. Just the truth. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Then said something so rehearsed it made my skin crawl. I didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't mean to stop, I replied. She broke. Sat down hard on the chair like gravity had remembered her all at once. Tears came. Apologies. Excuses. The classics. I was lonely. I felt invisible. It was just a connection. You work so much. I waited. When the script was over, I said, I'm filing next week. She stared at me. You don't want to talk about it? We just did. I'll fight for the house, she warned, switching gears. You won't win, I said. You committed adultery. I have proof. My lawyer already has copies. Every document has a timestamp. The judge will see it all. Her expression twisted. This is revenge. No, I said. It's closure. I stood. I want you out by Monday. She didn't leave that night. But I noticed the suitcase by the door the next morning. She knew the game was over. But the final play? That was still coming. Because Cameron Ellis didn't just ruin a marriage. He picked a fight with the wrong man. It's funny how quiet the house felt once the truth came out. Jenna tiptoed around like a guest in her own life. She made coffee silently. Skipped the morning news. Stopped asking if I'd be home for dinner. The woman who once filled every room with curated cheer and curated lies had nothing left to say. The suitcase by the door grew into two. And I didn't lift a finger to help. She was moving in with her sister, allegedly. I didn't care. Whether she bunked with family, shacked up with Cameron, or pitched a tent in a forest somewhere, it wasn't my concern anymore. But Cameron? Oh, Cameron was still very much my concern. A week after Jenna left, I hired a private investigator. His name was Ray. Mid-50s. Looked like a retired butcher. Spoke like a man who'd seen too much to be impressed by anything anymore. You want pictures? He asked. No, I said. I want leverage. Ray cracked a grin. That's my favorite kind. I handed him a list, names, places, dates I'd already pieced together. You've done your homework, he said, flipping through the pages. I designed blueprints, I replied. I like structure. He chuckled. Then you're gonna love what I build for you. Ray got to work. He started with Cameron's workplace. Westbridge Group, a slick marketing firm built on smoke, mirrors, and motivational quotes. Turns out, Cameron wasn't just a cliche and a Rolex. He was a walking liability. 3 complaints from junior employees, all filed then quietly withdrawn. 2 suspiciously timed promotions for women who left the company 6 months later. And 1 ongoing internal audit about expense discrepancies. Fancy language for theft. Ray sent me a PDF file labeled Client Package. It had timestamps, emails, photos, even screenshots of Cameron bragging in a WhatsApp group about a married woman conquest who kept the hotel lights on. That alone could have cost him his job. But I wasn't done. I wanted a fall, not just a stumble. I reached out to a contact of mine, Amanda, who worked in legal consulting for Westbridge's largest client. She and I had gone to college together, shared study sessions and microwave burritos before law school turned her into someone who spoke in legalese and billed by the hour. Hypothetically, I said over lunch, what happens if a director at Westbridge is caught misappropriating funds and engaging in workplace affairs? Her eyebrow twitched. Hypothetically? Or are we having lunch with a grenade in your pocket? I smiled. Let's call it a controlled detonation. She sipped her wine. Send me what you've got. Off the record. A week later, Cameron Ellis was suspended pending internal review. It hit the company like a blackout. Emails went unanswered. Meetings got canceled. HR panicked. Jenna found out through a mutual friend and had the nerve to text me. Did you have something to do with Cameron's situation? I didn't reply. Some messages don't deserve responses. Just results. But here's the thing about justice. It gets addictive. You think you'll feel closure once the truth is out, once the mask is ripped off and the villain is exposed. But what I felt was unfinished. Because Cameron wasn't just some reckless Casanova. He was deliberate, cruel. A man who seduced a married woman for sport and mocked the fallout like a frat prank. He wasn't sorry. He was smug, and that meant I wasn't done. So I dug deeper. Ray found something. Cameron had an ex-wife, divorced 5 years ago. No kids. Just a lot of silence and a court order sealed tighter than a vault. But Ray knew someone at the county clerk's office. A few favors later, he had a copy of the sealed record. Turns out, Cameron didn't just cheat on Jenna with me as the collateral damage. He'd done it before. Multiple affairs. One of them with his own intern. He was forced to resign from a different company after that, and the settlement included a gag clause. That, my friend, was gold. I printed the entire file and mailed it to Westbridge's board of directors. No return address. Just a note. This is your brand ambassador. The next day, Cameron Ellis was terminated. No ceremony. No send-off email. Just a disappearance. Jenna texted again. Why are you doing this? I finally responded. Because he made a choice. Just like you did. My final act wasn't legal. It wasn't revenge. It was a reminder. I emailed Cameron a single sentence. No threats. No warnings. Just clarity. You're lucky I stopped here. By the time spring rolled around, the house felt lighter. Jenna had moved out completely. The furniture stayed, but her perfume was gone. The passive-aggressive sticky notes on the fridge disappeared. Her voice, the one that used to tell me when I was too quiet, too distant, too boring, was just a ghost now. I renovated the study, got rid of the fake succulents, donated her pile of unread self-improvement books, bought a punching bag for the garage, hung it next to the golf clubs I hadn't touched in a year. Sometimes, I hit it just to feel the silence bounce back at me. Sometimes I smile. Because I didn't just survive betrayal. I mapped it. I dismantled it. I buried it under the weight of its own arrogance. And I walked away whole. But that's not the end. Not quite. Because some debts? They still need collecting. You'd think by now I'd be numb. After months of uncovering lies, exposing lovers, and tearing down reputations like old wallpaper, you'd expect the pain to dull, to fade into routine. But betrayal has a funny way of mutating. Just when you think you've mapped every corridor of it, bam, another door swings open. And behind that door, a new face wearing the same smug mask. This one belonged to my brother. Not figuratively. Not some guy I called bro in college. My actual, flesh and blood older brother, Nathan. It started with a conversation I didn't even hear. My friend Kyle called me one morning, jittery, rushed. Logan, I just left Crofts Hardware. Guess who I ran into? I had no idea where this was going. Who? Your brother. And Jenna. That name still tasted like metal. Okay. They didn't see me. I ducked into the paint aisle, but man, they were close. My grip on the phone tightened. Define close. Too close. She touched his chest when she laughed. He leaned in. It wasn't the usual awkward ex talk. I paused. You think it was a date? Kyle exhaled. I think it wasn't the first. The thing about betrayal is once it visits your home, it never really leaves. It just changes rooms. I didn't confront either of them right away. Instead, I observed. That Sunday, Nathan called me out of the blue. Hey, little bro. Just checking in. You doing okay? He hadn't checked in since Christmas. Yeah, I replied. Why? No reason. Just thought I'd drop by this week. Maybe grab a drink. Sure, I said. You free Thursday? He paused. No, Thursday's bad. I've got, something with the guys. The guys. I knew that crew. Poker night hadn't been a thing in 3 years. Liar. Ray, my now very trusted private investigator, agreed to do one more job. Your brother, huh? He said, not even trying to hide the amusement. You sure? No, I said. But I want to be. Ray followed Nathan for 3 days. Day 1, gym, office, gym again. Nothing unusual. Day 2, same pattern. But Jenna's car was parked 3 blocks from Nathan's condo. Ray got pictures. Day 3, confirmation. A photo of Jenna and Nathan walking out of a low-key Italian place tucked into a quiet strip mall. Her arm looped through his. Another of them outside his condo, laughing. Then, one final frame. Her hand on his door, him leaning in. I didn't need to see more. I had enough. I didn't scream. Didn't throw anything. Didn't pace the room like a character on bad daytime TV. I just sat down and laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so absurd that laughter was the only sound that didn't feel like breaking glass. Jenna and Cameron had burned the house down. And Nathan? Nathan took a marshmallow stick to the ashes. I called him the next morning. Let's grab that drink, I said. Tonight. Yeah, he said, wary. Sure. I said, calm as ever. I'll meet you at solstice. 8 p.m. It was our spot. A local dive bar with sticky menus and terrible lighting, where we watched playoff games and teased each other about who Mom loved more. I showed up early, ordered 2 beers. He arrived right on time, wearing that same casual swagger he always wore. Like nothing could touch him. Like the world owed him a high five and a second chance. We small-talked for 5 minutes. Then I leaned forward. How long? I asked. He blinked. What? Don't insult me, I said, keeping my tone even. Just tell me, how long have you and Jen been seeing each other? He stared into his glass, then gave the worst possible answer. It just happened. I took a breath. Not for composure, just oxygen. The kind you forget to breathe when betrayal walks in wearing your brother's voice. You knew what she did to me, I said. You were there when I showed you the photos. You helped me box her things. I didn't plan it, he said. I was darting like someone caught stealing silverware. She called me. Said she needed someone to talk to. It started as a mistake. I finished. That grew legs and booked hotel rooms? He winced. It's not serious. It's not serious? I repeated, louder. You betrayed your own brother and you're telling me it's not serious? That's supposed to make me feel better. People at the bar were watching now. I didn't care. Nathan leaned in. Look, I didn't go looking for it. And yeah, I know it's screwed up. But she gets me. That was the line that broke me. Not the affair. Not the lies. But the idea that she got him. She'd gotten a few men, apparently. And they all thought it was something special. I stood up, left money on the table, and looked him in the eye. You and I are done, I said. Family isn't biology. It's loyalty. And you cashed yours in for a woman who cheats like it's cardio. He reached for my arm. Logan, come on. I pulled away. Next time she comes crying to you about feeling invisible, I said, remind her she left a marriage full of love to chase a mirror. And remind yourself that when this ends, and it will, you lost your brother for nothing. I walked out into the night. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. Because I wasn't just burning bridges anymore. I was building walls. And this time, no one was getting in. 2 months. That's how long it had been since Jenna walked out with her last suitcase. Since Cameron's career took a nosedive into irrelevance. Since Nathan, my brother, rebranded himself as just another name in my contacts I'd never tap again. It should have felt like closure. It didn't. Because beneath the silence, there was still one unanswered question ringing in my head like a dull bell. Why me? Why betray the man who loved you, defended you, built a life for you? The answer arrived not in a conversation, but a document. A letter from Jenna's attorney. Apparently, she wanted to revisit the terms of our divorce agreement. Claimed I acted with malice by getting Cameron fired. Said it impacted her emotional well-being and financial stability. It was bold. It was desperate. It was stupid. I forwarded the letter to Brian, my attorney. His reply was short. She's bluffing. Let me handle it. But I didn't want it handled in court. I wanted to speak with her myself. One last time. So I invited her to lunch. Public place. Neutral setting. No legal traps, just truth. She showed up 20 minutes late, as if the delay would shift the power balance. Nice place, she said, glancing around the cafe like she was too good for the furniture. Let's skip the small talk. I leaned in. You can drop the lawsuit. You'll lose. She smirked. You sure about that? I pulled out my phone, opened the folder labeled Cameron, and slid it across the table. Photos. Statements. Emails. Her smile faded. I kept it all, I said. And if you think I won't use it, you've forgotten who I am. She stared at the screen like it had just whispered her future. I don't want a war, she muttered. You started one, I replied. I'm just the one who finished it. She didn't speak again. Just stood up, took her purse, and walked out without saying goodbye. Good. We didn't deserve one. They say time heals. But I don't think time heals. I think time reveals. It shows you who was real, who was temporary, and who was always waiting for the chance to ruin you. So when I ran into Cameron 6 weeks later, bloated, pale, a shadow of the confident jerk I remembered, I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt confirmation. Karma worked. Quietly. Thoroughly. He was walking out of a legal aid office, likely trying to claw his way back into an industry that had already deleted him. He didn't see me. Or maybe he did, but couldn't meet my eyes. Didn't matter. My revenge wasn't in his downfall. It was in the knowledge that I didn't need to lift another finger. He was already drowning. And I? I was rebuilding. Nathan tried texting once. A generic message. Hope you're doing okay. I left it on read. Because I was doing okay. And he didn't need to know what that looked like. A few weeks later, I stood in my garage, my punching bag swaying, a gentle breeze rolling in through the cracked door. I looked around. No ghosts. No guilt. No trace of the lies that once lived here. Just a man, standing tall in the quiet he'd earned. I'd spent a year dismantling every illusion I ever believed in. And when the dust finally settled, I found something I didn't expect. Peace. 1 year. 12 months since that Facebook photo changed everything. Since wineglass smiles and corporate giggles unraveled a decade of loyalty. Since I discovered that love doesn't always rot loudly, it sometimes dies with a smirk and a muted ringtone. But here's what I learned. Betrayal doesn't break you. It wakes you. It sharpens your edges. Gives you clarity. You stop giving discounts on your loyalty. You stop confusing comfort with safety. And you learn, painfully and beautifully, that self-respect isn't built in marriage vows. It's built in the aftermath. I didn't take revenge with violence. I didn't yell. I didn't grovel. I didn't fight for someone who sold me for dopamine hits in hotel rooms. Instead, I watched, listened, and dismantled them quietly like a man taking down a condemned building, brick by brick, until nothing but foundation remained. Now I live in a smaller house. Fewer rooms. Fewer pictures. But every corner of it is mine. Every breath inside it is honest. And every night I sleep knowing this. They tried to ruin me, but I'm still standing. And they'll spend a lifetime wondering how the quiet man with the broken heart became the storm.